Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is that you're joining me for this video. Thanks once again for clicking on the PenBoyRoy Fountain Pen Review channel. The subject of today's video is the Tianzi Fountain Pen. A lot of you guys haven't heard of the company Tianzi, spelled Tianzi. It's a brand that named its pens after a huge mountain in China. Because if you're going to name your pen company after something, why not a mountain, right? It hasn't been done before. Anyway, although it's a newer brand, the owner of the brand, his name is Junji Shi, common spelling, has been making fountain pens for the last 20 years. The dude's 40 years old. So he has a company, and the company's not called Tianzi. It's actually an OEM manufacturing company, and they actually make pens for other brands. One of the brands that you might be familiar with is PenBBS. There are some other brands that they do make pens for that I'm not particularly at the liberty of disclosing, but some of the elements will be so similar that you'll probably be able to figure it out yourself. The pen in question today, the Tianzi Piston Filler Fountain Pen, has been provided to me free of charge for review by the partner of Junji Shi, whose name is July, operating out of New Jersey. So thanks goes out to Tianzi and July, the partner of Junji Shi, for providing me this pen for review. That's all I have for the background information. Moving on to the neutral zone, those elements about the pen that are neither good or bad, or can be good or bad, depending on you. The nib is a number 6 size-ish stainless steel nib. And it kind of looks like a Yovo nib, but it's not a Yovo nib. Now, these nibs are made in-house in the Tianzi factory. On the side, you have some scroll work, you got your breather hole, you got the logo in the center, which you can see here on the box. You might not be able to see it on the video, but it's kind of just like a snake type logo inside of a circle. And underneath that, you have the brand name Tianzi, in case you forgot, and an M under that to indicate that this is a medium. The underside is a cheapy plastic feed. Now, the nib and feed are friction fit into an unscrewable nib unit housing that has an O-ring on it. Now, this nib unit housing is proprietary to the factory, and surprisingly and interestingly, this nib unit also fits your narwhal pens. It screws into this section that is fixed to the body, obviously, since it's a piston filler. The rest of the body is your commercial grade cracked green forest type acrylic. At the end of the barrel, you have a ring, which is part of the piston mechanism. And as you can see here, there are 2 keyed sections of the piston mechanism that allows you to unscrew the whole piston mechanism if you need to. You can actually use a Twisby wrench for that. On the barrel, you don't have any kind of branding or stamping whatsoever. The cap is more of the same acrylic that you see on the barrel. The finial also tapers to a flat end, just like the end of the piston mechanism, and there's no branding on this cap other than its wedding band style center band. The front says Tianzi, the back just says China for where it's made. The clip is a L-shaped clip. It has an L-shaped bracket with 2 little rivets that connect it to the ring that holds everything together over here. This pen screws and unscrews in exactly 2 full rotations. Now let's take a look at the packaging. In the packaging, you get all the bells and whistles. You get a Tianzi sleeve that's a metallic-ish black with some silverish sheen to it. You got some Chinese writing and a checkbox to indicate something. You have F and M, so F would be fine and M would be medium, and it's just checked off medium. They made a mistake, they crossed it out. So on the side over here, you got some writing in Chinese, and then in English it says, "The view from without losing, body posture exhibition, erkua," handwriting as flowing clouds. Right, so we're gonna slide that off, and inside you have a pen body bag that your pen comes in, and a bedding with an elastic band. That's it, that's all you're getting. That's all I have for the neutral zone. Moving on to the good, those elements about the pen that are good. I really do like the way this pen writes. Right out of the box, it had no issues whatsoever. It's an in-house made nib, like I said before, and it does have a very slight hint of toothiness and feedback, but it's otherwise very smooth. I think I could say that if you're familiar with writing with PenBBS fountain pens, or even narwhal fountain pens, because the nib unit looks the same and the nib looks identical other than the branding, you should know what to expect with this fountain pen. And if you haven't written with any of those other pens, well, let me tell you, the way that this one writes is not like a Jowo nib. It's not like a Bach nib. It's moderately wet and lays down a pretty thick line. Now, this is a medium, but I feel like it's a touch broader than a medium. It's a smooth writer. It's decently wet. And in the hand, it's very well balanced. It can be posted, but I actually prefer to write with this unposted, because posting it, even though the pen overall is light, kind of makes it tilt a little bit backwards, and you can feel the difference. But that's not to say that posting it is uncomfortable either. When it comes to the build quality of this pen, it has a lot going for it. It's a solid, well-built pen. The polish of the pen is slamming. It's super polished, it's super shiny, it's got a lot of shininess to it. It's just so super, what's the word I'm looking for? Shiny. Yeah, I got good words. I love how smooth everything is, including the threading of the cap to the barrel as well as to the piston mechanism. I just like everything about it. Now, this acrylic is not unique. It's a commercial acrylic that you see in a lot of brands out there, but having said that, they did something really well with it. Now, the overall design of the pen when it comes to aesthetic is not really that unique. It comes across as slightly generic, but to me that's okay. It's not a deal breaker. And this pen, yes, it does look like other pens that are manufactured by the OEM manufacturer that makes Tianzi, but having said that, I do like this pen overall, and I think everything about it is pretty solid. That's all I have for the good. Moving on to the bad. Let's talk coin. So these pens are not sold at retailers such as Goldspot Pens or Pen Chalet or Goulet Pens, etc. They can be found on the Tianzi Etsy store, where they will charge $50 for a pen. Now that, to me, for a piston filling pen that has an acrylic turned body, is not a bad price tag. That's all I have for the bad. Moving on to the ugly. Those elements about the pen that should not be, but are. As I said earlier, the way this pen writes is good. I have no complaints with the way it writes. And when it comes to the design and the build quality, I don't have any complaints there. Personally, when it comes to the aesthetic of this pen, like I said before, it does come across as a tad generic. But that's a gripe that I have, and it's a minor one, and that might not be something someone else even considers. So I have to be honest here, when it comes to the ugly, there's not much here to talk about. It's an acrylic pen that's well made, that writes well. It's a piston filler. Is it incredibly unique? No. But like I said, I don't really have much for the ugly. That's all I have for the ugly. It's high noon. Decision-making time. Should you or should you not pull the trigger on the Tianzi Piston Filler Fountain Pen? So this one's actually an easy one. For $50, you're getting a turned acrylic pen that has a piston filler and a pretty darn good stainless steel nib to boot. I can't really think of any reason to dissuade you from getting this pen. $50 is not all that much for what you're getting out of the box. So if you're looking for an inexpensive piston filling fountain pen made of acrylic, then I think you got a pretty good one on your hands here with the Tianzi Piston Filling Fountain Pen. That was my review of the Tianzi Piston Filling Fountain Pen. I hope you found it helpful. Thanks again for watching. Love you guys. Be well, be safe.